if you're only here for our pain, you might feel let down.
So in some rare follow-up then, we get to reach quite a long way back in time. I forget how far it was, but this is pre us having built robots. This is proper like armchair engineering type stuff.
I forgot we did that as like an actual thing, an actual named segment.
Named segment.
That is so long ago.
Armchair engineering. Maybe we should bring that back, or maybe we shouldn't. I don't know.
I mean, we can't now. We have ascended the armchair.
just becomes.
We are builder
becomes
now.
engineering, does it?
Not sure I'm comfortable with that.
One of the silly ideas that I had before I fully understood how motors worked was the idea of taking like a linear induction motor or something, like some kind of linear motor, like a railgun type thing, and just turning that into a big circle and using that as a spinner. And like having like a ring going around that for a spinner. Now, it was pointed out fairly quickly that that's just a brushless motor.
I've only just realised why that's funny.
What?
That's literally a brushless motor, yeah. I see it
what
now.
I've described is obviously a brushless motor, and like people do this with like hub motor weapons and stuff. So I get it, like, you know, but this was before we built things. However, it was pointed out to us on the Reddit that someone has built something that's pretty much what I had in mind. And it is this big ring that presumably they will then put lots of windings around and then have a nice big sort of like custom, like fully custom motor. So it's not like modifying a brushless motor with a weapon on the outside of it. It seems to be pretty scratch built, and I think it is fantastic and wonderful. There'll be a link to the Facebook post in the show notes, Sunny Robotics, and it's honestly like pretty much what I had in mind. I think it's glorious, and I wish to see it working.
So what you're saying is they copied you?
No, I'm saying that I predicted the future.
Oh, that's okay then. I probably don't have anything intelligent to say or add here, but yeah, it's basically like a hollowed out brushless motor, like a brushless motor with a core that other stuff can fit into. It's an amazing design. I fully expect it to not work.
Unfortunately, so do I. But I do love it, and I really love that someone's doing it. I love that that's like, it's one of those things that's like a weird idea in my head, and I love that it's plausible enough for someone to give it a go. So yeah, I'm excited to see that going.
It's always nice to find out that the weird idea you had in your head was also in someone else's head.
Yeah.
It's like weirdly affirming when that happens.
Well, the other time this sort of thing happened, I think we spoke about this before, I spent a long time sort of thinking in my head about how to do drive linkage, and having sort of like, you know, you want your motors not directly attached to the wheels and you want the motors towards the back of the robot. And I spent a bunch of time thinking about how you would do that. And I know that the result I came up with is the obvious thing, and it's what anyone would do if they thought about it. But I was pleased with myself having done it. And then I was super pleased with myself when I saw that that's exactly how Bite Force has their drive working. Like the exact thing that I drew is what they have. And again, I understand it's an obvious thing. It's not like I came up with anything particularly exciting, but I'm just pleased that like it's not just me.
There's a lot to be said for coming into the sport and finding out how other people are doing things, looking at that, emulating it until you have the confidence and knowledge base to innovate yourself. But if you're able to sort of put the time and energy into thinking, how would I do that? Then worst case scenario, you come up with the solution everyone else has, and that is fine. Best case scenario, you come up with something genuinely innovative. I think it's always worth going through that process. Even when you are experienced, maybe even more so when you're experienced and you know what everyone else is doing. Having those silly ideas and expressing them somewhere, I think is a really valuable thing.
Yeah, and I think, you know, like coming up with ideas from like first principles and stuff, I think is always interesting. And it's like I say, it's really affirming when you go, actually, I derived this from first principles, and it's nice to see that actually that is an idea that would work. Like I don't need to build it to know that what I came up with for a drive system would work. I really hope that this ridiculous spinner thing works, because then I'd be able to say that a ridiculous idea that I came up with from first principles would work. I'm not hopeful that it will work, but I'd love it if it did.
You know what? You might have to test out yourself.
What's that?
The grab and punch robot.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this the other day while I was amp building. I was trying to do a really simple rear hinge flipper that turned out not to be really simple at all. I was trying to do like a proper 4-bar linkage for it, and it was just a world of pain that I don't want to step back into for a while. I don't know where I was going with this, but yeah, I was doing that and kind of thinking about the wackier ideas we've had. And turns out executing those ideas is probably quite tricky, but...
Well, here's the thing. I hereby give people listening to this show permission to build my wacky ideas. If I voiced it on this show, the chances are I'm never going to build it. And so if you want to build a robot that can grab and then punch someone else, or something else, another robot, or a human, why not? I would love to see it. So yeah, that's fine by me. If you want to build that robot, go for it.
Is this just now your new strategy for getting affirmation of your ideas? Just try and influence someone else into making it.
If I can come up with an idea and then someone else puts the work into making it a reality, then I think that's a pretty good deal for me.
It's efficient. Anyway, are we just jumping straight into it? We've got a lot to get through.
I think we just need to start the episode and go for it. We've got so many fights. There's no time for messing around.
In this fixture, we have, for the first time ever, an exclusive Magnetar versus Hypothermia.
Yes.
Now, I should point out before we carry on, you were harsh on yourself in what you said when you cut this. I was equally confused. I was treating Magnetar as the first one, not the second one as well. And I think that you only did so because I was acting confidently.
You agreed with me.
And even when you pointed out the mistake, I flip-flopped 3 or 4 times on which one I thought was first and just ended up sad.
You'll notice that I was careful to leave you agreeing with me in the edit.
Such moments are rare and precious.
Indeed. So, yeah, Magnetar is the second version of this robot. Pulsar is the one that kept blowing up. Magnetar did not blow up in the way that I meant. It had its own flaws, but Pulsar's the one that kept burning everything out. Magnetar, I think, is a much better robot than Hypothermia. Than Pulsar.
Ooh, cards on the table early there.
Well, the thing is, like, what's funny about this whole thing is a part of me is like, I'm not sure this is going to change as much as I thought it would, but we'll see.
I don't think it is either. So last time, do you remember what we gave?
No, and I guess you've...
Oh, I've just realised it's still on the notes because we haven't unchanged them. Last time, we gave this 5 and 2 to Hypothermia based on the belief that it was Pulsar, not Magnetar, and therefore it would probably destroy itself.
Yes.
I think quite a lot of what we thought last time still stands. The key thing that's going against Magnetar here is the fact that by being the home draw, it's putting this fight in the Robot Wars arena, which directly advantages Hypothermia.
Does it? Why does it advantage Hypothermia?
Because if you do this in the BattleBots arena, the only way Hypothermia wins is if Magnetar destroys itself. In the Robot Wars arena, it's got a lot of things that help. It's got the pit, it's got house robots. The floor flipper is honestly quite a big thing because Magnetar, during all of its appearances, seemed to be limited to self-righting once. As soon as that self-writer opened, it never shut again.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't take a lot for even the floor flipper to be its undoing. I believe as well, this is something I didn't think about last time, I believe Hypothermia, in the photo that I've given you for this, and in the way it was seen most, it was a grabber. I think it also had a lifter set up, where the arms were kind of slung underneath it, and they lowered to raise the whole wedge.
Ooh, that does sound familiar.
I think that's what they did against Minotaur, which is kind of the other basis for thinking about this fight, in terms of, yes, it lost to Minotaur, but it did survive Minotaur.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out just searching for Hypothermia doesn't give you the results you want.
I make that mistake as well. I mean, come on, surely the computer knows that we're talking about this, so it should just figure it out, right?
I mean, mine should have learned that every time I search something, I want the robot answer, not the other answers. You work so hard not to give it anything to go on that it probably won't have worked that out.
I'm my own undoing for this kind of stuff.
Oh, it is described as having a lifting wedge, so yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah.
So I think for me, Hypothermia goes in with the lifter setup and still has the advantage here. Whether it's 5 and 2, I'll let you decide, but it has the advantage here.
I don't think it's quite 5 and 2.
I mean, it'd be quite funny if it was still 5 and 2.
I don't think it's quite that. What are its fights like against... what's its fight against Thor?
Hypothermia's fight against Thor?
No, Magnetar's fight against Thor, sorry.
I wish I remembered.
I'm actually going to do some research for a change.
I think the Thor fight might have been the one where Thor got absolutely shit mixed by Matilda.
I'm watching the fight now. Oh, it's got the entanglement stuff on it.
I'm sure that will be extremely, extremely important to the way the fight pans out.
Probably not. It's more to refresh my memory of what Magnetar is like. There's no Matilda in this fight.
Okay, it isn't the one where Matilda did the big damage to Thor. It was Magnetar that did it. I'm not going to sit here and call it a lucky hit, but there was definitely an element of fortune with the opportunity arising, should we say. It isn't in doubt that Magnetar hits pretty damn hard.
Yeah.
The issue is that Hypothermia is built to be hit pretty damn hard and seems to be pretty good at getting hit pretty damn hard without dying.
Yeah, so that's that. And then, so Thor lost because, so it ruptured the CO2 and then I presume was just, couldn't self-right from there. Okay.
I knew it ended in a cloud of CO2. I just got the wrong cause for the cloud of CO2.
Yeah.
Not that that's a bold shout for Thor's Series 10 campaign. I think 4 and 3 would be fair. Or 3 and 4 as it technically is. In Hypothermia's favour.
Yeah, I think so. So I think Magnetar's got a reasonable chance of doing some pretty serious damage to the wheels on Hypothermia. But yeah, I sort of agree that I think it will probably just end up being a case of Hypothermia taking a beating for 3 minutes. I mean, I think if it goes to the judges, it will probably be Magnetar's fight. I think it is a case of, it's Magnetar's fight to lose, if that makes sense, I think.
I mean, the wonky-ish view of aggression at times in Robot Wars could bite, but I mostly agree with you.
Yeah.
If you were sat there vehemently telling me this has to be 4-3 in Magnetar's favour, I probably wouldn't argue that hard, but I'm more comfortable with it being in Hypothermia's favour.
Okay. I'm properly torn on this, actually. I really am sort of like, I feel like Magnetar should win it.
How much of this is guilt from last time?
No, I genuinely think it should win it because it's got the more damaging weapon and because Hypothermia, I know it's like a bit of a tank and stuff, but it's got the exposed wheels, which I think would hamper its, it could, I don't particularly expect Magnetar to remove the wheels, but I think it could do some damage to those wheels. Obviously Magnetar does hit hard, and so I think it should win. Like I said, I would have thought that it would win a judge's decision, which I think is the most likely outcome. Because I don't think Magnetar's going to knock out Hypothermia. And then the only thing is whether or not Magnetar gets flipped. And I don't necessarily know how likely that is.
If Hypothermia goes in its lifter setup, then you have to say there's a decent chance of that.
Well, how effective, what does the wedge look like when it's got the lifter setup? Like, is it a wedge that can actually get under things? Like, is it a genuinely useful lifter? Or is it another way of having a sort of active weapon on BattleBots? That's the thing. So,
Behemoth got under Magnetar fairly happily.
Yeah, but I feel like Behemoth's got like a much more scoop-shaped scoop. This is just a 45-degree thing of metal that's flat. I don't feel like it's like got a scoop thing in the way that Behemoth does. Like in terms of lifting mechanisms, Behemoth is a far better one than whatever Hypothermia could have.
I was actually about to come on your side here by saying that I think the main issue Hypothermia would have is that the moment that wedge takes a hit and gets peeled up, then it will struggle to get under. As I said before, I'm happy for this to be in Magnetar's favour. It's not the way I would have put it at first, but if you feel strongly about it, I'm happy to go with it.
Oh,
I think it's pretty borderline.
I don't know. The problem is that I feel like you're the more knowledgeable one and stuff. So I feel like you're more likely to have an accurate view of what this should be. But I would give it in favour of Magnetar. I would give it a 4-3 edge.
So I'm also the more stubborn one, and here I am happy to go with your view. So there must be something in it. So yeah, 4-3 Magnetar, 1-2-3-4 for Magnetar, 5-6-7 for Hypothermia. Now watch it come in Hypothermia's favour to change nothing in terms of the tournament. Excellent.
It's a 7.
And Hypothermia goes through anyway.
Yeah, but that's fine. Like, it's believable, and I feel like we gave it fair conversation this time. So I'm happy. I'm happy.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to sort of say that, this is where, Magnetar can only self-right once and stuff. So I think it is reasonable if, Hypothermia with a lifter and the floor flipper, I think it's reasonable to assume that Magnetar would get flipped enough times for that to be a problem.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Everybody wins.
On to the round of 32. We've only got 16 fights to do.
God, yeah. Right. Up next, we have the 2016 version of Cobalt versus Valkyrie.
I guess now is our opportunity to just rip off the plaster that the 2019 season wasn't part of this, because we started it before the 2019 season, hence we went with the only version of Cobalt we could, not the one that would actually have had a decent chance in this fight.
Oh, man. I can't believe that we're still stuck like pre-2019 and we're facing the 2020 season. This has taken so long.
I mean, that's why we're rushing like we are.
Yeah, I think Valkyrie's going to take out the wheels, isn't it, on Cobalt? I think that's...
The only question I have is whether Valkyrie has the superior reach here. I feel like it does, especially if they go with their sort of longer bar. I don't think it would be a question of taking out the wheels, because that would involve getting behind or to the side.
Yeah.
I think it would just be an issue of their weapon hits first when the two meet face to face.
Yeah. I don't know. I could see Valkyrie coming in on the side and stuff. Like, I think that's plausible.
But then it's also plausible for Cobalt to do the same. If anything, Cobalt's probably slightly the more manoeuvrable.
Yeah, but Cobalt's weapon isn't quite so, like, I think they'd have to properly come in from the sort of, like, more from the back, you know. Valkyrie, because it's got the undercutter, I think it's got more options to hit the wheels and knock the tyres off. Whereas I think Cobalt would actually have to be coming in from the back and stuff, because the wedge on the front of Valkyrie, it covers, like, most of the angles from the front on the wheels, I think.
True, and Cobalt's body is kind of angled on the sides to almost divert low hits underneath.
Yeah.
Which is probably not optimal when you think about it.
Possibly not.
Damn, we should have told Dave, he could have fixed it. Yeah, our best mate now. That's how that works.
close personal friend, Dave Maltz.
Are you like 6-1 in favour of Valkyrie, or are you 5-2 in favour of Valkyrie here?
I think I'm more 5-2. I don't think Cobalt's got no chance. I think it's, you know, it can hit hard.
Yeah, but 6-1 isn't no chance. It's a 1 in 7 chance.
I know, but like, the problem is that when we
that for a lot of robots, you know, quite a lot of robots in quite a lot of fights would take that. We'd have taken that in most of our bloody fights.
I know, but all we can do is the range of numbers that we have, right? And we give 6-1s, I think, in fights where we think that the robot with a 1 has no chance, and that's the worst odds we can give it. And I don't think that's fair for Cobalt.
That's the thing, though. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to mean that we think it has no chance. It could mean we think it's got a roughly 1 in 7 or lower chance.
The whole of this tournament so far, we've only done that for robots that are entirely, like, fights that are really one-sided. And I don't think this is really one-sided. I hear what you're saying. I get it. But I think that would be unfair to Cobalt.
I mean, I disagree. I disagree on what the basic process is here. And I could pull rank as the creator, but I won't do that.
Are you seriously telling me that before this moment, we've always sort of been like, well, it's still like good odds for sort of like reasonable odds for 6-1? Like we've always given that extreme an odds for really one-sided fights. It's the situations when you've got like Tombstone versus some rubbish robot that doesn't spring to mind at the moment. Jellyfish.
I was going to interrupt you with Frostbite for a second. That's only fair.
I couldn't help myself.
The problem is 5-2 feels generous.
You really think that Cobalt is that sort of unlikely to win?
That's almost a 1 in 3 chance.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
You think that 1 time out of 3 Cobalt wins this?
Yeah. Because like Valkyrie is a great robot, but it's, you know, by no means perfect.
No, I think if we're looking at a win condition for Cobalt, it's a weapon failure on Valkyrie's part. And for me, normally when a robot is relying on a weapon failure from another robot, that makes me think that a 6-1 is an option, unless it's a notoriously unreliable robot, which Valkyrie isn't. I'll go with your 5-2 if you insist. And that sounded far more passive-aggressive than it was meant to.
Valkyrie lost to Ultimo Destructo, man.
That is true. And that is not a good look.
Ultimo Destructo.
Yeah, 5-2, fair. If anything, it's probably a 4-3 based on that. But...
No, I think that would be a bit unfair. But like, I think that, I think 2 and 5 in favour of Valkyrie there.
I'll take that. So 1 and 2 for Cobalt, the rest for Valkyrie.
Yeah, right. It's a 6.
Well, none of that mattered.
It did matter.
No, a lot of that mattered.
Yeah,
that mattered quite a lot.
It's the process.
No, that didn't matter. No.
It's not like our changing of odds there made a difference to the result, but it mattered because it's all about the journey. It's the discussion that people tune in for.
Are you saying that the real die rolls are friends we made along the way?
Exactly. But like, can you imagine if I cut all of this conversation out and just did, this is what we think the odds are, roll a die? I mean,
That's above the level of some fantasy series, but
we'd get through them a lot quicker.
like I say, I've only ever heard one other, and I really enjoyed it, so I shouldn't say that. So about them 1 and 6s, eh?
Oh dear.
Next up, we have 2018 Lockjaw versus the Kegs.
Poor the Kegs. Poor the Kegs in all their low resolution glory.
Just roll it, Sam. We don't have time. Just roll it. They've had their run. It's not a 7, is it?
No, it's a 1.
Oh, that's okay.
I was laughing because I knew it was a 1 end and I had to quickly figure out how does this work? Who's just won?
So I did actually forget to establish that early on, so I could have just flipped it on you, but yeah.
No, I'd have figured it out. Lockjaw wins.
We'll talk about Lockjaw in its next fight.
Up next, we have the Ringmaster versus Apollo, bracket Series 9.
We said Series 9, I'm not sure it really matters that much, and also I seem to have the notes from Series 10 rather than Series 9, so go me, I guess. We basically combined the versions realistically, didn't we?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, the notes even say we picked Series 10, and yet the intro says Series 9, so...
Yes.
Yes, that's fine. Right, both of them. All the same.
I've just been heavily distracted by the fact that my waveform looks like lots of little fish. I'm struggling to move past it.
Most waveforms look like that.
Well, burst my bubble, why don't you?
That's what I'm here to do.
I think this is quite a clear-cut one. I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell me otherwise.
I think Apollo's going to win. I want the Ringmaster to do well, but I think, these ring spinners, I think a couple of flips and I think it would probably, the weapon would break, I assume. I can't remember how reliable the Ringmaster is.
It's tricky to say because its defeat against Bite Force, the weapon did get wrecked by Bite Force. And yes, it was early Bite Force, but it was still good then. It took a masterclass from Chomp to stop it, so...
Here's what I think, right? I think it's 1 and 6, but I think that the Ringmaster deserves a little bit of conversation. That's the thing.
Okay, so yeah, well, I mean, we can talk about why it's a 1 and 6, which is that Apollo has done a decent job of deflecting horizontal spinners, and this is a horizontal spinner. The end.
Yeah, pretty much, and that's what it is, horizontal spinner, and it's a potentially finicky one at that, so... Finicky, pernickety, they're both words. I'm wondering if I should be, factoring the Omnidrive into this at all for the Ringmaster. I don't know if that really helps it any, or if Apollo is just going to stay faced up anyway. Yeah, I don't think it's going to matter a great deal. I think if the Ringmaster's sort of, sliding around, then Apollo just almost has to sit in its one spot and just keep facing it, and it'll be fine, so...
It's a horizontal spinner against a fairly well-armoured wedge. It's a story as old as time. Back in the days of cavemen, they had this problem as well.
1 and 6.
There's a reason all the horizontal spinner dinosaurs went extinct.
Big wedge fell from the sky. It was a 5.
Oh, the images I could put together to go with that. It was a 5, so Apollo wins, yes?
Yes.
Awesome. We are making great time today. Part of me does feel bad for skipping through these, but there are some tough ones coming up,
Yeah, we've got stuff to do.
In fact, I think this is maybe one of... maybe this is one of them. Next up, we've got Red Devil versus Big Nipper.
I know that I say this every time we talk about Red Devil. I really like Red Devil. It looks so cool.
It looks cool in this setup. This surely wouldn't be the setup they would use for this fight.
Aesthetics above all else.
Well, we do have a bit of a situation here with setups, actually, because they both have different setups. There could be a lot of gamesmanship. In fact, I guess there's a lot of game theory here, trying to work out what the other person's play will be and how your play will affect that.
Yeah, interesting. Are we going to get 2 grabbers, or are we going to get a spinner and a wedge?
Or a spinner and a grabber. Because the other grabber thinks the other one's going to put its grabber on, and then it puts the spinner on, and then it's all over pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I feel like Big Nipper, while they do like to bring the grabber out where they can, surely this is a spinner situation. Surely.
I mean, were I in their position, with Big Nipper and facing Red Devil, I would put the spinner on there. I know that there's obviously that there's the chance that Red Devil would do the wedge plow thing, but I think that I'd still put the spinner on it because the drive pods on Red Devil are sort of like so asking to be hit by a spinner.
Now, to its credit, Red Devil did survive a fight with Monsoon.
Yeah.
That wedge setup was very effective for them, and the driving was good enough that they didn't really get hit elsewhere. I don't quite know how we can compare the weapon power of Big Nipper to Monsoon. I feel like it's going to be... But no, I can't compare it. I was going to try, and then I realised that I'd already said I couldn't.
I think it would be necessarily less powerful. I think there's so much more going on in Big Nipper that it wouldn't be able to be as powerful, and I don't think it'd be able to hit as hard as Monsoon. Because Monsoon is all about the weapon. Right, it's like this built around that bar, whereas because Big Nipper's got the configuration and stuff, it's got weight constraints that are different. It's got the weight for the mechanism that lifts the spinner around and stuff. It's a smaller diameter, less mass in the weapon.
Yeah, and I guess the spinner setup is having to replace what is probably quite a lightweight grabber setup, isn't it? So it's going to be constrained by that weight.
Yeah, I would think so. So like, I'm not saying in any way that Big Nipper has an underpowered weapon or anything. I'm like, it can deliver hits and stuff, but I don't think it can be compared to Monsoon.
In that case, I'm almost wondering if the grabber would be the right option.
Yeah, but like, what would the grabber do?
Control the control bot. It doesn't give a route to victory in arena, because we're in the BattleBots arena and there isn't really a route to victory for control bots. But does it help them in the case of the judges?
I think, because we're in the BattleBots arena, I do, although the spinner on Big Nipper is not necessarily the world's most powerful weapon, I think it's still worth putting it on there, because if they go with the grabber and Red Devil does the saw or something, Red Devil's going to get all the aggression and damage points. There's not a lot you can do about that. Whereas if you put on and I think if they both had like their sort of like, if like Red Devil had like the wedge and Big Nipper had the grabber, I don't know, I think that would be such a boring fight. I can't imagine the teams would do that. I don't know. I'd put the spinner on because I think it's the way that's most likely to gain you favour with the judges, right? And like, let's say that you have the spinner on and Red Devil have the wedge. I think you've got the advantage with the judges at that moment. And if Red Devil go with a more active weapon, it's a more even fight. I don't think you are losing much by going with the spinner, whereas I think you've got the potential to lose You've got the potential to lose favour with the judges and potential to make it a really boring and uninteresting fight, which I think is stuff that people think about when they're going on these televised things. So I think the spinner is the choice.
Well, I hope they do, because we certainly did for Bugglebots.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people do. So I think that the spinner is the thing to go with for Big Nipper.
I'll happily go with that. That then leaves the question of who wins, and I don't know that either.
No, I don't know. What do you reckon Red Devil would do? I mean, I feel like I'd be inclined to do. I don't know how defensive they'd be. You know, again, I'm sort of trying to sort of like think it through. Do they know? They don't know what Big Nipper's going to do. Do you play it defensive and stick a wedge on it in case they use it? And then you're losing. You've got the same sort of a similar situation. It's like, well, you're potentially losing favour with the judges. So maybe you go with a more active weapon as well. Maybe the same reasoning works.
Yeah, the wedge neuters their actual sort of damaging weapon quite badly.
Yeah.
I feel like they have to do it, though, for survivability. Yes, it's not helpful in terms of how the judges view you as a robot, but it helps you get there in the first place.
Yeah, but like, so I'm trying to sort of like try and do this in a way where it's like, well, Red Devil don't know what we've just decided for Big Nipper. I don't know. Again, if I were with Red Devil, I would save the wedge stuff for robots that I know for a fact are using a spinner. And I think if you didn't know that, I mean, maybe they just go and ask. Maybe it would be like the teams just go meet up and go, right, what were you going to do? And they figure it out that way. But like, I would stick with the saw and the grabber and stuff.
I think there's a slight lack of internal logic there, because you've gone, well, Big Nipper are going to go with the spinner because of course they are, who wouldn't? And then you're going, oh, but the Red Devil team, they won't know which way it's gone. It's a coin toss. They've got no idea.
I'm not saying that Big Nipper, why wouldn't you? I'm just saying that I think that of the two weapon choices that Big Nipper has, I think the spinner is the one that's the least likely to bite them later. You know, I think it's the one that it gives them the most likely sort of win condition, both in terms of the competition and in terms of the entertainment value. And I think the same argument holds for Red Devil. I think that in terms of winning with the judges and winning with the audience, I think that having the saw, having a damaging weapon, the saw and the iconic look, I think is is the more obvious choice. And like I would say that the wedge option is an option that you take out when you know that you're fighting a big spinner, when you're fighting the monsoons and the Valkyries and the whatever. That's when you use, and the tombstones, that's when you use the big wedge, I would have thought.
My feeling is that their hands are kind of tied and they really need to go with the wedge, just for survivability's sake. Although I am thinking about that in kind of a fight night format, which this isn't. So I'm thinking that when you come up against a spinner like this, or a potentially spinner like this, you want to make sure that you can recover for your next fight in the current sort of form of BattleBots. But this is knockout. Maybe they go more balls to the wall. I'm also looking through just to see what setups they used in various fights. So they used wedge against Brutus, wedge against Monsoon, both of which are obviously spinners. Grabber Saw against Sub-Zero. Wedge against Valkyrie, and it didn't make any difference. And then Grabbers against Kraken. Oh, interestingly, they went into the Last Chance Rumble with the Grabbers rather than the Wedge. That had spinners in it, and they still went Grabbers, so that kind of supports your way of thinking. Based on that, I'm happy to say Grabbers.
Okay. I'll take it. Now.
So how heavily is this in Big Nipper's favour?
Oh, I don't know, man. Big Nippers. Is it made of titanium? Is that right?
Almost entirely, yeah.
Entirely titanium.
Get it? Entirely.
I have no words.
I think it's 2-5. I think Red Devil can happily take it to the judges, but they're still not going to get anything from the judges.
Yeah.
In fact, maybe on that basis it's not 2 and 5 at all. Maybe on that basis really it's 1 and 6, but I know you won't accept that. Because that's for robots with no chance whatsoever.
You're just going to hold that against me forever now, aren't you? Aren't you?
Well, yeah, in the name of consistency, I'm going to ask you to be consistent going forwards. Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Mr. Inconsistent is going to ask me to be consistent. No, I agree with your first thing. I do think it's probably more of a 2 and 5 than it is a 1 and 6. So I don't know why I'm arguing with you on this. Yeah, fine.
We gave it 1 and 6 against Ironside 3, as in Certain Doom. I don't know, I feel like this. I guess that is a horizontal, though.
Yeah, Certain Doom.
All right, we'll go with 2 and 5 again. I don't know why I'm arguing.
2 and 5. Let's do it. I feel bad. I really like Red Devil, and I don't want it to lose. But anyway, 2 and 5.
Oh yeah. The thing is, most robots I like, not because I think they're going to win fights, but because I like them. Liking something and believing it will win are very separate things. So it's 1 and 2 for Red Devil. The rest for Big Nipper.
It's a 1.
I mean, I'm very happy to take Red Devil through.
It's just gonna...
I think it would have been fun if we'd gone 1 and 6, just so it could have come through 2 1 and 6s. But no, you had to water that down, didn't you? You, no one else. I didn't say 5 and 2 as well. It was all your doing.
Dearie me. Right then. Up next, we have Warhawk versus TR2.
What are you thinking?
What am I thinking? That I always underestimate TR2. It's a better robot than I think it is, and I don't know why. Why do I keep thinking it's not a good robot? Rubbish.
Because it keeps coming third in things. It's Modern Firestorm, isn't it?
If you say so.
So I think I stated last time we were looking at this that this was a really close one, and I'm not sure I agree anymore.
Classic.
There are 2 very good reasons for that. Number 1, that was based on Warhawk's history of breaking apart when flipped, but that happened in 2019 and therefore doesn't count for this. And number 2, that was forgetting that this is in the BattleBots arena, not the Robot Wars arena. In the Robot Wars arena, it's a tough one. BattleBots maybe less so.
How did Warhawk lose against Bronco?
Oh God, how does anyone lose against Bronco? That's surprising. I would have to go and look at it quickly to remind myself. And we'll do so now. Skip through Farouk. Sorry, Farouk. Come on, Bronco, do something. Stop running away, you... Okay, my memory started to come back. As I recall, Warhawk just kind of died in this, because it was all over Bronco. This was one of the early appearances of the Pwangers. Literally the least effective armour setup of all time.
Oh, Bronco, come on, hit something.
Oh, that's how it happened. Okay, I'll let you get there. I don't want to spoil it for you.
Oh, then screws. Okay.
Oh,
And the screws, yeah, I vaguely remember watching this. Oh, and then the screws come out, and then that was sort of it, I guess. So screws are then counted out. I fully expect that TR2 would take this the distance without issue.
that does give me a little more confidence in TR2, because TR2 I think happily survives the hits. Well, I think it takes far fewer hits because it's pretty low to the ground.
Yeah, I think TR2 will take the hits, no problem. I think that the chances of getting it in the screws and winning like that are slim. I
don't know.
Well, slimish, I don't know. And then it's sort of like, it requires getting him in the screws, it getting stuck, and then also Warhawk dying in the same way. And I don't know, like that's a lot of sort of things that have to go right. I feel like Bronco's win there was quite lucky. I think the most likely thing is that this will go the distance and the judges would give it to Warhawk.
The one thing worth bearing in mind with TR2 versus Bronco is designed to take the opportunity to flip the thing now. TR2 and most other sort of British flippers are designed to get under an opponent, take them somewhere, then flip them where they want to. I think TR2 is far more able than really all the flippers we've seen in BattleBots to actually put a robot somewhere dangerous on purpose. Whether that's the screws, whether that's sort of one of the low walls. So I think it does have a route to victory here.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
I think a lot of this comes down to who's lower and whether Warhawk can actually get in and do any damage. Because once they do, similar to the Magnetar hypothermia situation, if they can get a few hits on the front, that's pretty much game over for TR2 in terms of being able to get under them.
Yeah.
But if they can't, they're pretty badly neutered.
What do you reckon? What's your gut saying?
I don't know.
I feel like it's in Warhawk's favour.
My gut's saying 4 and 3 to someone, but I don't know who to.
4 and 3, wow.
It's that close for me, yeah.
Okay. I was sort of thinking more 5 and 2 in favour of Warhawk is where I was, but then maybe this is me underestimating TR2 again, I don't know.
I'm just looking through for any evidence of Warhawk having something that really helps them get under low things. And they have got like a little spike-fronted wedge, which maybe gives them more potential to get under in the way they need to. Which does seem to kind of work, but I'm seeing them getting under other things getting under them. It's a bit of a lottery.
I'm happy with 4 and 3. Still not, I'm not. I think I'd want to give that in favour of Warhawk still, but
I mean, that's the compromise position right now, isn't it? I'm thinking 4-3 TR2. You're thinking 5-2 Warhawk. Let's split the difference.
yeah, okay.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 for Warhawk, 5, 6, 7 for TR2. That doesn't really fit.
Shame. You happy with that?
Happy enough, yeah.
Okay, let's go with it then.
I feel like I don't know what I want from this enough to really push for too much.
Yeah, it's a 2.
Okay, so once again, it didn't matter. Perfect.
All that thing. That's Warhawk's win. I feel like we've not done a good job of explaining what the numbers mean. That means that the Warhawk won. I'm sure the audience is keeping up though.
I've just seen the next one is big.
Oh, blimey. Core blimey.
So something you may not know yet about the laptop that I'm borrowing is that for some reason it really hates double letters.
Monson. Monson.
I'd be surprised if that was the only one of these.
Oh dear. No, I have an even funnier idea. Look, what we do is we move the O from monsoon and we put it there instead.
I will read it that way. Or did I do the last one? I can't remember.
It's your turn to intro. And now I've got to leave this whole bit of conversation in so that people understand why you're about to say this.
Yep, you have. So coming up next, we've got Tombstone versus Monson.
Oh dear. Tombstone.
It's just way more menacing, isn't it?
Tombstone. That's really tickled me. If I ever make a horizontal spinner, I'm calling it Tombstone.
I was just saying, I have already named my horizontal spinner ant that's basically a crap tombstone, but damn, that would be a contender if I hadn't.
Are you willing to share what you've named it or not?
I thought I had already. Agrajag. I'm trying to go along a Hitchhiker's Guide name scheme, and Agrajag, spoilers, is the creature that is reincarnated into the bowl of petunias, which the Monsoon team referenced in their intro for the petunia fight, and the bar I'm using is one of the Drizzlebots bars, same team.
I love it. Brilliant.
It's convoluted, and that's exactly how I like it.
Exactly. Excellent work.
I'm already getting in my own head about bias here. I know I'm biased towards Monsoon, and therefore I'm likely to underrate Monsoon in this. Or just rate them correctly. That could also be a thing. I don't know.
Who knows? There's so many levels here. I think that this is in favour of Tombstone.
Why'd you say something so controversial and yet so brave?
I know.
So we have a Facebook group. A group where we pretend to be at BattleBots filming, where we've been doing a little fantasy thing on there. And we did Tombstone versus Monsoon.
You're cheating on me.
I had nothing to do with it. I've just been along for the ride. I'm cheating on you in many other ways with other like podcast and YouTube things.
No, it's fine. I've come to terms with it.
In that, Monsoon won. But that was based on two things. One was bias, and two was knowledge of a new horizontal spinner setup or anti-horizontal spinner setup that they apparently were bringing for 2020.
Okay.
I think if we're journeying back to 2018, we have to confess that while Monsoon was wonderful in so many ways, it was not optimized for facing horizontals.
No, we've got to go back in time. We can't be considering potential hypothetical improvements that they've made for this year. We've got to.
I wasn't suggesting that we should, for the record.
Okay, good. We've got to consider it as it was. Yeah, I think it's Tombstone's fight. Pretty overwhelmingly think it's Tombstone's fight, actually. As much as I like Monsoon.
Are you about to give this the 6-1 treatment?
Yeah, sure, why not? What do you reckon?
You see, here's the thing. Monsoon was a top 16 robot in 2018.
Yeah.
And by your logic, that completely gets rid of the possibility of this being a 6-1 because that's robots with no chance.
And I don't think...
we both know.
In this fight,
a 6-1.
Monsoon doesn't stand a chance.
Hey, all it needs is one bit of misdriving from Tombstone to expose a wheel, and Monsoon can take that.
Oh, yes, because Tombstone is well known for misdriving.
I mean, it has happened. Yeah. Or it could be an imperfection in the floor. We all know they were a thing. It could be radio interference.
That's the one that Monsoon has got in this.
A meteor. So by your logic, that makes it 5-2.
No, it doesn't.
All those potential
you are grossly misstating, grossly and intentionally misunderstanding the point I'm trying to make here. In this fight, Monsoon is so unlikely to win, and the worst odds we can give it is a 6-1.
As if I would ever willingly, let alone intentionally, misrepresent your flawed points.
They're not flawed. My points are flawless, and you are intentionally and willfully misrepresenting them to try and make them appear flawed, and I will not stand for it.
Well, if there's no flaw, then the fight can't happen at all, and we can't even assign odds.
What odds would you give it?
Who hits the bottom of the pit first?
If you step outside of these silly mind games and picking holes in my arguments, what odds would you give it?
Oh, it's 1 and 6 all day. I don't disagree. Okay.
1 and 6 is it? You think Tombstone?
I just want to rub it in. That's all.
You think that it's a 1 and 6?
Oh, sorry, 6. No, 1 and 6. I'm going with it. Fight me. Tombstone has no chance because there's no flaw apparently.
I'm rolling.
If it's a 7, I will be so happy.
No, it's a 2.
Shock horror. Tombstone wins fight.
Tombstone hath won.
Now, by the logic of, 99% of people posting about BattleBots on Facebook, the fact that Tombstone would beat Monsoon means that Monsoon is awful and doesn't deserve to be there.
That's not... No, that's not how that works. Monsoon...
Any robot that Tombstone would beat, according to them, is therefore bad.
Monsoon is a wonderful robot.
But it lost to Tombstone, Sam.
But Tombstone... What a point are you trying to make here? Like, people on the internet are wrong? No shit.
They're not just wrong, they're offensively wrong.
Offensively wrong? I'm sure we're offensively wrong as well in some things. So, people on the internet, man.
Oh, yeah, your whole thing about the 6 and 1s, that was offensive. Right. You get to intro the next one.
We have Ryan's favourite robot, Bronco, versus Whiplash.
I'm in tremendous pain.
What, because I described Bronco as your favourite robot, or because of this particular matchup?
Neither.
Neither.
Because this could be cut and dried. This fight happened in 2019, and it was one of the most one-sided top 16 fights we've ever seen by quite some margin. It was just horrendously Whiplash's fight. There wasn't half a second where it looked like being Bronco's at all. And based on that, it would be easy, a piece of cake, to give this Whiplash's way. But that's 2019, and we can't count it.
The note.
Now, do I think that exactly the same thing would have happened in 2018? You bet I do.
Yeah, I do as well.
Oh, hang on. Shit. Hang on. No, hang on. I've just realised that it did actually lose to Whiplash in 2018 as well.
Yeah, I was about to say that. The notes have Bronco lost to Whiplash as well, so...
Oh, yeah, because they weren't bloody in 2019. Well, yeah, ignore all of that. Yeah, that's great. It's Whiplash's fight. Fantastic.
Excellent. 1 and 6.
Genuinely, or... Because I'll take it.
Yeah, genuinely. What do you want to? Do you want to talk about this longer? Like, shall I try and make an argument for anything other than the obvious 1 and 6? This is.
The only issue is that saying it's 1 and 6, obviously, when one robot has got an 8 and 2 record and the other has got a 5 and 2 record,
look,
should be wrong.
Okay,
but we both know it to be right.
Well, this is the thing. This is the fight has happened. We've seen this. And I've got no reason to expect it to be any different. I don't know what Bronco could do. Even with knowledge of the fact that this fight has happened, I don't know what Bronco could do to defend against it. I think that...
Not be 27 feet long?
I think Whiplash is a fantastic robot, and it's phenomenally well driven. And, what can Bronco do? Nothing.
The one thing they could do is not put on the stupid sidearm.
Yeah, that would help. But
the side armor that has not at any point even looked like being effective against a Vert.
Look, given that they continue and they keep putting it on despite how blatantly rubbish it is, I have no reason to think that they would ever take it off.
6 and 1, let's go.
Right then. Right. So,
1 and 6.
Well, I did roll it a second ago. You would have heard that in my track. But now that we've had more discussion, should I re-roll it? I don't know.
I mean, I feel like the fact you're asking is implying something that means the answer is definitely yes.
No, I'm not implying anything. Like the result is fine. I just want to sort of make sure that we're happy with the fact that I rolled it and then we continue discussing, and then I'm going to reveal the answer now.
I mean, we know it was 1 and 6. We know what that means. 1 for Bronco, the rest for Whiplash.
Yeah, and it's a 5.
We're all good. That's fine. Next up, we have Expulsion versus Eruption. Our first, and I think only... Oh no, not only. Our first All Robot Wars fight of the round.
Ooh.
It's also not a hard one, let's be honest. Expulsion has got here by beating Pulsar, even though it was 1 and 5 against. Carbide, at 1 and 6 against. So unless we're going to take into account it's clearly massive luck and somehow make this not 1 and 6... Well, I'm tense right now. It could happen again and just ruin everything.
Oh dear. How the hell did we justify this beating Carbide? What did we say?
I don't remember, but that could be an exercise to the listener to go back and remind themselves, because I'm sure it was excellent.
What could we possibly have said? Oh my goodness me. Right. It's a 1 and 6. If this is a 1, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Then I quit.
Are you ready?
Genuinely tense. No, just do it.
Fuck.
No.
Genuinely.
You're shitting me. You're shitting me.
I'm sorry.
I do not believe you. That's the thing.
I promise you, I haven't touched it. It's a 1. I promise you that's a 1.
This is the most suspicious I've ever been of you. Like, ever.
Reasonably so.
I've always trusted you fairly implicitly.
Were we the other way around, I'd be suspicious of you right now. But I promise you, it's a 1.
Thanks. See, I went ahead and plotted out the likely course of this based on who I thought was favourites for each.
Yeah.
And the one thing I knew would really fucking up with the expulsion beating eruption.
How is this?
And here we are. I don't even know. How do we justify this?
I can't believe I'm typing these words. Beat eruption.
There will be people listening right now, and I don't blame them, who think that we're doing this just for like the drama of it.
Yeah, I think this is the point where I think we've gone into the world where people will not believe the role that I've just done. And I think it's reasonable to be skeptical of that. Like, it is reasonable, but like, all I can say is that I promise you it's a 1. Like, we're not making this up. I genuinely
this is
rolled
like the first time I've genuinely considered doing a redo just to not make that happen, which is such a silly thing.
We've got to go with it. We've got to stick with the roll.
So let's just quickly work out the combined odds of what's happened. So it's 1 in 5 by 1 in 6. That's 1 in 30. Oh, sorry, no. 1 in 6 by 1 in 7, which I should be able to do in my head, and I can't. Help, Sam.
I don't know how to multiply.
You have the big
I don't know how to multiply odds, man.
I just need 6 times 7.
Oh, I don't know that either. 6 times 7. 30 something, 40? 40 something? 42? 43? I don't know.
Cheers, Sam. So 6 times 7 times 7.
It's 42. 6 times 7 is 42.
Oh, of course it is, yeah. So if my calculations are correct, we're currently at a 1 in 294 chance of it having made it
1
this
in
far.
300, basically. Brilliant.
No, 1 in 294.
Yeah, but like, it's nice to round. I'm more of a physicist than I was a mathematician.
We still have to justify this. How are we doing it?
An act of God. Like, I don't know. What could... God knows what happened here.
I never like to come in and say that a robot genuinely has no chance. But I can't see a single thing that expulsion can actively do to eruption. Maybe eruption misses a flip, ends up on its back, and expulsion manages to somehow take like both wheels while it's upside down.
No, like, the only thing I can think that happens is that expulsion opens the pit and eruption drives into it. I can't. What else could happen? Maybe a house robot goes absolutely nuts.
Well, there's the ultimate get out of Link, lol. But we're not going there. That's too easy.
No, well, that's a bit too cheap. So all I can, I don't know, if Matilda goes nuts maybe and just destroys eruption for some reason. But no, this is ridiculous.
Rogue House Robot, I suppose, is the answer, isn't it?
I think so.
But still,
I'm eruption. I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm not that sorry, but still.
To all the listeners, what can I tell you? What can I tell you?
There will be people out there just rooting for expulsion to keep this up.
If expulsion wins,
I was one of them at one point, but it's taken out 2 Robot Wars champions.
I can't buy an eruption.
I also can't think who it will have next. It might be Whiplash, actually, because it's just a straight bracket from here.
It might happen. It might win. Like, it might win.
I think the only time it can face Bite Force is in the final. There's that. Right, we need to keep this pace up.
Oh, right, yeah, right. We can't dwell. Up next, we have PP3D versus the 4-ish Horsemen.
This is really hard. Or is it? Maybe it's not really hard. It's funny that there are so many of these I look at ahead and go, that's really hard. Then I just internalise that as a fact. Then we get to talking about them and I go, oh yeah, the 4 Horsemen is all spinners and PP3D's wheels are held on with what I assume are breadsticks.
You've got to build that now.
I mean, I usually use things weaker than breadsticks.
So what, you'd give this to the 4 Horsemen, would you?
Yeah, I think they have the ability to swarm PP3D and take at least a wheel. Were you thinking PP3D then?
Yes. But this is one of those situations where I don't really have a good memory of PP3D, and so I'm willing to defer to your, what I presume to be, more accurate knowledge. And so if you genuinely think that one of the Horsemen can take a wheel off of PP3D, I'm willing to give it in favour of the Horsemen, but not a landslide.
I guess that is the question, isn't it?
I don't think it's a landslide in any direction.
I think the question is also whether PP3D can one-shot any of the Horsemen. I'm not sure it would. Or at least not reliably. It's a big, heavy spinning thing, but they can get to it pretty quickly before it's fully spun up. But then again, being hit won't take much energy out of it to de-spin it, so,
Was it not PP3D that fired a robot and embedded it in a wall somewhere?
That was Cherub, yes, but that was after, like, a whole Rogue House robot pinning time to get spun up. I was going on the basis that it wouldn't get the chance to spin up, but a box rush from a robot that's 1/3 weight doesn't really stop your spin up that badly, does it?
No, I think this is one of those things where, like, I agree that, like, you know, it's got to get the time to spin up and all that kind of stuff, but I think it's quite likely that during most fights it would get at least one opportunity to get that weapon pretty close to top speed. And then when you're talking about these 1/3 weight robots, like they're gonna just get sent flying.
And I guess my idea of swarm them and take a wheel each does rely on maybe some higher level driving than we've really seen from the Four Horsemen. I don't think we've reliably seen great coordinated driving from them.
Yeah, like, I get the impression that you really like the Four Horsemen. I feel like you and I rank them so differently, I think for me at least, whenever the Four Horsemen are in a fight, I'm like, they're not going to win. Which is unfair, for sure. And I feel like you always rank them.
It's a concept I want to see succeed.
I
preferred the Swarm, but it's a neat idea, it's a neat thing, it's something that has been quite successful in other weight classes, although I suppose that is really amp weights, but I think they have a route to victory, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Not as strong as my instincts first said, but it's at worst 5-2 against them, and I would argue not that bad. I might even still argue that it's 4-3 in their favour, but that's probably a stretch.
I reckon we go 4-3 in favour of PP3D, because if, like, assuming that you know, if you feel that PP3D, like, wheels are held on with breadsticks and stuff, like, I think and it has that reliability issue, then that's fair. I'm willing to go 4-3 in favour of PP3D. I think that the other way around would be a bit favourable to the Four Horsemen, but
let's do that then. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 for PP3D, 4, 5, 6 for the Four Horsemen.
5, 6, 7 for the Four Horsemen.
But I wanted it to have a 4 in it.
Well, that's fine. Like, you can make that joke, but I want to clarify for the listener that you can't have 1, 2, 3, 4 for PP3D and then 4, 5, 6 for the Four Horsemen.
I should point out I didn't do that on purpose.
It is a 5.
So that's the Four Horsemen.
So the Four Horsemen have won. Yeah, there we go.
So the wheel plucking strategy works. The wheel plucking strategy that I've just realised worked for the kegs against Huge in our canon. I'm not sure how well you remember that justification, but
not. I mean, I'm aware that it happened, but that's about the extent of it.
Well, that's good enough. Next up, we have Overdrive versus Minotaur.
Should we just roll?
We could, but I want to point out that we gave Minotaur 3-3 odds against Blacksmith, and that feels very generous to Blacksmith.
I would probably have argued that point at the time as well. I think I let you get away with that.
Almost certainly, yeah.
Although, to be fair, Blacksmith is a tank, but even so. 3-3. Jesus Christ.
I don't have down who Overdrive beat last time round.
Push to Exit and Hobgoblin.
No, because there should be 2 fights in there.
Oh, okay. Well, oh, yeah, I don't know them. Sorry.
Roll it anyway.
Overdrive. Sorry, you get a 1. Everything else for Minotaur. Oh, no, I did it. Minotaur. Damn it. Oh, I'm so disappointed in myself. God damn it. Ugh. I hope it's a 1 now. It's a 2. Which means that Minotaur win.
Oh, Jesus, too close to comfort.
But it's the result that we were expecting.
Oh
no.
I've just looked at the next one.
No. Oh no. Oh, right.
It's the moment that no one's been waiting for.
We have Iron Ore 6 versus Rapid.
We should remind everyone yet again that we have established in Retuncti lore, in Retuncti canon, that Iron Ore 6's flipper works and is pretty good.
Yes, I'm still not entirely sure I agree with that, but that is the state of the universe that we are in.
I mean, it's won live events.
Yes, I know.
It's come third in the UK Heavyweight Champs twice. Yeah, it's a good robot.
Yeah, we've been over all of this. And yet we're still in the situation where the only things I've ever seen it in are where the weapons do not work. But that's fine. That's not what's up for debate here.
As good as Iron Ore 6 is, Rapid is better, as flippers go. And while you might want to claim, under normal circumstances, that the veteran maybe has a driving advantage, really not the case with Rapid. Extremely well driven. I think it is Rapid's advantage. I just want to be careful that we don't overstate that out of bias.
What are you thinking for Rapid then? A 5 or a 4?
So it definitely can't be a 6.
No, can't be a 6.
I'm wondering if it can even be a 5.
I was going to say, because Rapid's got a really long recycle time on its weapon, but it always just ran away when it was recycling its weapon, so I don't think it really matters.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of reasons to give points to Iron Ore here.
I mean, the one thing you give Iron Ore is reliability. Actually, no, you wouldn't even give it that, would you? Come on. What am I talking about?
You can't give it that. It's
even though, in the macro, it's done many, many fights, and there were only 3 where the flipper didn't work that I can say definitely happened, and they're the Robot Wars fights. In the grand scheme of its time as a sort of functional and active robot, they are a very small percentage of the fights it's had. So in that respect, I worry that we're overstating them, but at the same time, they're the thing we're most aware of, so we're going to do that.
Yeah. This is tricky, because I'm sort of trying to think, like, flipper versus flipper always feels like a combination of driving skill and luck, I think, more than anything else.
There are some finer details, I guess, in terms of whose front is lower, probably Rapid. Who's more efficient with their gas, really don't know. The sort of cycle time on Rapid's flipper, I think, is an issue if they get flipped and then need to self-right. I think that leaves a period where they can be kind of driven around anywhere.
Yeah, if Iron Ore 6 were like a really quick robot, I would feel like, well, Rapid, if assuming Rapid can't outrun them, then they've got a problem with their cycle time. But I suspect that Rapid can outrun Iron Ore 6, which is why I sort of feel like,
unless they're upside down.
Unless they're upside down, and in which case, yeah, they've definitely got a problem. But then, like, they go a long time upside down, self-right, and then drive away again. I think Iron Ore 6 would have to be pretty on the ball to keep them upside down, Not saying it can't be done.
What we've just described is Iron Ore's 2, isn't it? That's really what we've done there.
Yeah.
We haven't described a 3 for Iron Ore, we've described enough to give it a 2.
Yeah, I agree.
So 1, 2 for Iron Ore, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for Rapid.
It is a 5. Rapid win.
For you! That's the first time that we've not given the advantage to Iron Ore. Next up, we have Witch Doctor versus Complete Control. This is 2018 Witch Doctor. This is before Witch Doctor came good, so it's coming into this with a 3-2 record. Those wins were Blacksmith on a judge's decision, Ultimo Destructor in its flipper form, and Overhaul. The defeats were against Yeti and Minotaur, so this is still Witch Doctor living in that reality where it's lost to really good robots and beaten pretty okay and the occasionally good robot.
I genuinely don't know.
I think it's Witch Doctors, but it's not a 6 and 1. I'm not happy to come in and say that Complete Control bosses this fight as a control bot.
No, because Witch Doctor is quick and it's well driven for the most part as well.
Although it did have the fiery problem in 2018, didn't it?
Yeah. 4-3? Just going to throw that out there.
Wow. I'm surprised to hear it, but I'm not against it.
Yeah.
I feel like we need to justify the 3 for Complete Control.
I think so. Complete Control, I think, is quite low. I think that I know that it's obviously got all the gubbins at the front and stuff, but other than that, I think that there's not a lot that Witch Doctor can do to hit it. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to talk myself out of my score here, but so yeah, maybe Witch Doctor does just sort of like mess up all the gubbins at the front and sort of like neuter Complete Control in that moment.
Witch Doctor, quite a long time ago, abandoned the idea of a feeder wedge for a more flat front that gives weapon reach. And that's worked in their favour in a lot of situations. I think this would be one of the times where it doesn't. So Complete Control will be quite confident about getting underneath with the forks. And while it's probably not all that low on the sides and rear, They are quite shallow angles it has on the armour there.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that Witch Doctor would struggle to hit
I don't
them.
think Witch Doctor would easily dig on that, you know?
Yeah.
Easily bite.
No. I don't think it would have. The other thing that's sort of weighing on me is while Complete Control, it's not the world's most damaging robot, I think it does have a fight-ending weapon. Like if they get that one grab and if they get it in a position where the heat from their flamethrower does the damage, I think that's fight-ending for Witch Doctor.
I think we've justified that 3, haven't we?
Yeah. So I'm not saying that they will get that grab, but I think that it's a thing that you can't dismiss.
Yeah, it's a bit of an edge case. It's something that's very difficult for them to do, and when they do it is spectacular and brilliant.
And yeah, this is...
I do think they could still win this on the judges with control as well, if they can avoid taking a lot of damage. But yeah, I'm happy at 4 and 3. I didn't think I would be, but again, without 2019 having happened in our canon, I guess it's easier to do that to Witch Doctor.
Yeah, I think if this were a more modern Witch Doctor, this would be a different conversation. Obviously, but I think the result would be different. I think the more modern Witch Doctor, I think we'd give it a much higher score. But for this rendition, I sort of think that 4-3, I think is fair.
So 1, 2, 3, 4 for Witch Doctor, 5, 6, 7 for Complete Control.
Ho! It's a 6.
Hey, okay.
Oh, interesting.
I'm happy to have another control bot going through instead of Avert. That's always good news for me.
Well done, Complete Control.
Can't wait for someone to say that that's the biggest sort of controversy and upset of the episode when Expulsion Eruption literally happened.
No, don't remind me. Oh, unreal.
Next up we have Bite Force and Rotator. Now, I'm just checking before I say anything. It was in 2018 that this fight happened, and it was catastrophically one-sided. Not quite as one-sided as Whiplash Bronco, but nearly.
Yeah, I think when you've got Bite Force in, it's hard to give odds anything other than 6-1 in favour of Bite Force, really.
Who wouldn't we give 6 and 1 for Bite Force?
Bite Force?
That could happen. I'm generally looking through to think who we wouldn't give that. Tombstone I wouldn't, because yes, they fought and it happened. Okay, wrong season, but that was quite a freak occurrence. That's a problem for another day. Roll it.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Well, we spoke about Rotator last time. It's fine. Oh,
I misspoke about Rotator last time, in fact.
We'll get there.
I was trying to talk about the utility of the upper disc and started talking about the utility of dual discs. Because I do words good.
Podcasting is hard, man. Right, I'm going to roll. It's a 5 Bite Force win.
I've just seen the note you left on Rotator last time. Meet Photon Storm thanks to odds of 5 and 2, which Ryan wasn't overly fond of, but Sam wore him down.
See, that's a joke. I couldn't leave it in. Oh, so annoying.
Of course, yeah. I'm going to leave you the option to just slip last episode's audio for that in now. I know you won't take it, but the option is there.
I'll release that when I release episode 0.
Didn't we already release episode 0 at one point?
I still don't think I have.
I'm sure we did.
Maybe you beat me down eventually. You beat me down on...
Michael, no. If we have, Mike will say something.
Yeah.
He remembers what we did better than we do.
I think most of our audience do.
It's not that hard, is it?
Oh dear. Right then. Our final fight of this episode. The final fight of this round. I can't believe we've done an entire round in one go. That's crazy. We have Storm 2 versus Bombshell. I have no idea.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I don't think there's a single Bombshell setup that reliably beats Storm 2.
Of all the setups they have.
The hammer, obviously not. The horizontal, yes, they have the take the top of the wheel strategy, but there's not that much top of wheel to take.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to do. And Storm 2, I think, is not going to be... they're going to be driving at Bombshell pretty quick. Like, they're not going to have much time to do it.
There'll be no holding back.
Yeah.
The Vert, I don't know if it reliably gets underneath of Storm 2. And the Lifter, I'm not sure out-aggresses Storm 2. And I'm saying this as someone who considers Storm 2 to be very much middle of the pack in terms of the robots that we have left.
Yeah.
Storm 2's just kind of a bit of an all-rounder here. There aren't many fights you'd back it to win, but you'd never give something fully against it either. In fact, this is almost potentially one of those that I wouldn't 6-1 against Bite Force. Maybe that's completely foolish of me, but...
Yeah, no, I see it though, because, obviously it is that, I guess Duck is another one. It's sort of like, it's just it's a good brick.
Oh, yeah.
That you might not do that against 6-1 against Bite Force. But yeah, like it's a good brick. Like you say, it's a good all-rounder in terms of sort of like defense and stuff. And while I think that Bombshell is probably a better all-rounder in terms of its ability to attack and damage other robots, I think that, like you say, it hasn't really got an obvious way of winning against Storm 2.
We haven't had to do this in a while. Where are we, Sam?
I don't know.
Robot Wars Arena.
Robot Wars Arena, yeah.
That's just every kind of in Storm 2's favour.
That's a lot of, yeah, you're right. That's all Storm 2 there, isn't it? Probably. I'm trying to think, like, even if it had, like, the horizontal spinner, it's like, even though it can do the up and downy thing, there's, like, we've already covered, there's no way of getting the wheels, and it's sort of, I think it'd be quite, I think because of the fact that Bombshell is the Swiss Army bot, I feel like all the weapons are flimsier than they would otherwise be, like, they're more likely to break. I think I'd give the edge to Storm 2.
I was thinking 5-2 Storm 2.
5-2 Storm 2.
I don't see the big route to victory for Bombshell, whereas if it were in the BattleBots arena, yeah, 4-3 all day. In the Robot Wars arena, where Storm 2 basically just has all of the advantages, I think 5-2 is reasonable. Far more reasonable than I would have expected.
I don't think I can argue with you on that.
Then don't.
I'm not going to.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for Storm Do. Storm Do. That's a little mix between English and French there. 6 and 7 for Bombshell.
It is a 4. Storm 2, take it.
Wow. I would love to run through what this means for the next round, but I don't have that open and I'm too scared to open it on my laptop.
That's fine. We'll cover that next time.
It'll be in the show notes. Just because why not?
Well,
I'm amazed we got through that so quickly. I feel like we've really been pissing around the rest of the time. We could have been doing this from the start.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. We could have finished this years ago.
Just hope we haven't lost all the devil that was in the detail of us arguing for the sake of it,
I think there's a certain amount of, because we've talked about these robots before, I think there's less of me having forgotten the robots, which I think helps. There's more of us both being a bit more familiar with what's going on, and I think we're getting to the point where the lineups are a bit more. I think there are more and more fights that have a more obvious outcome in some ways.
Yeah, and I think where they aren't obvious, they're not obvious because both robots are good, not just because both robots are average.
Yeah.
I think it also helps that because we've spoken about everything already, we don't feel a need to do it justice by talking about it again, which does help.
Yeah.
I wonder if we can do the rest of it in one more episode. Because it'll be the same number of fights as today.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
The 8-4-2-2.
I still wonder about splitting it up. It depends. I guess maybe we do 8 and then C and go, well, if we take our time with that, then we can, because I want to, I'd like to sort of give time for the other stuff. I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to see.
We'll decide that another time. For now, would you like to outro?
Yes.
I can't remember what I was going to get you to ask people to tweet us.
It's only like barely a week ago and you've forgotten.
It was something that was really topical. That's the thing.
It was pointed out that I've now repeated things to tweet us, which is upsetting to me.
I think last time I was going to do something like unsafe testing videos, but
you can find the show notes for this episode at spinnerproof.com/episodes/81, and there you can find links to all the stuff we've been talking about today. You can also find a link to our Twitter at Spinnerproof, where you can tweet to us your favourite pair of socks.